Greetings. I'm the Computer King, the supervillain of streaming, and I'm here to talk about my progress on writing my novel for November, National Novel Writing Month. Today I slept in because I was very tired last night. It happens. But feeling much better. I didn't have enough time to dedicate my full usual 3 hours, which I try to get all at once. Otherwise, I start stuttering, and if I start stuttering my writing, I start not doing other things. Other things need to be done, you know. So, I only got up to, what was it? 11,386 words, which is just a little bit over 1,000 words from my word count yesterday. Still, in 6 days, that's pretty good for me. Really, really good. A little disappointing that I didn't get a huge amount, but you can't get a huge amount every time, you know. My second day was almost twice my first. It's really, really cool. But I'm still, according to NaNoWriMo, website.org, NaNoWriMo.org, I'm still on track to have 50,000 words down by the end of the month. So I just have to keep plugging at it. They expect an average of 1,667 words a day. That would equal around 50,000 by the day 30. So by day 6, I'm a little ahead of the curve, not much. But I can't slack. I didn't slack. I just slept more because I was tired, and writing would have been a mess. The writing topic, problem, I've been working on in this current section, which is not finished, is writing something that's, last time I was talking about writing something that's just in someone's head. Well, actually, it was 2 days ago. That's just in someone's head, that only they can see, feel, and other people don't see it the same way. You have to explain it. Well, this is something similar. This is not as if you're sensing something in a different way than other people, which basically was the first one, the first time I was talking about that. This time I'm talking about having a conversation with yourself. You know how you debate things with yourself in your head, or sometimes you say it out loud, and sometimes you say both parts out loud. You know, stuff crazy people do when they walk down the street. But sometimes you just keep it in your head while you're trying to figure out whatever it is. That second voice, that other you that's still you. How do you represent that and make sure people know it's distinct from it's not exactly distinct from your normal thinking. It's just a part of your normal thinking that you don't usually acknowledge to the rest of the world. You know, those times you hear an off-color joke and you act like it's not funny, but something inside tells you it's a little funny? That guy. That part of you that you hide from the rest of the world because they'd look at you and go, "Oh, you're a garbage person. I don't like you. You should be put away." Or something similar or less severe than that. If you say it out loud. I'm not talking about secret racism or nothing like that. Although racism can take on a whole new meaning when you're talking about people who have superhuman powers, and sometimes you can't think about race when you're dealing with people of many races who do something you don't like. That way you're disliking the actions, not the persons. But of course, there are people in my novel who don't like the people with superhuman powers. Even the people who barely have any superhuman power, but just have this one little trick. Because it also comes along with it some sort of disability or something wrong with them. I mean, would you want to be able to lift a train over your head in strength if it meant that you constantly felt horrific pain on the undersides of your feet all the time, never ending, like you're standing on hot coals? You might say, "Oh yeah, I can get used to that." But what if you couldn't? Would you still want the strength if it came with that sort of downfall? Is what I call it in the book. It doesn't necessarily balance the power out so that you don't want it. Hell, it doesn't even necessarily balance the power out when compared to the point where you don't want to use the power often. But because people are different, the way I'm writing the book, people all have different levels of the superhumans, if you can call all of them that, even the ones that can do nothing but make a coin flip heads every time. I know that's actually an awesome power if you can do it. If people don't know you can do it. Even for a tiny little power like that, there's the possibility of some sort of really debilitating disease, injury, mutation, shape change, something that sort of ruins it, even if it's a little bit. Yes, I can fire blasts of heat from my hands that can melt steel. But every time I do it, I have to run to the bathroom because I get an amazing wave of irritable bowel syndrome when I do. Is that worth it? Certainly isn't worth it to be a superhero if that's what your downfall is. Because then they'll give you, I mean, you know how kids will give you a nickname based on a physical attribute and make fun of you that way? I mean, in high school we used to have a guy who he was large, and so was his head. And for some reason, you know the Juggernaut from Marvel Comics? Someone drew a picture of the guy, well, the top part of the guy, because there's a Marvel Comics issue of just the top of the Juggernaut's head looking at the X-Men, and they drew it with like the guy's ears and said, "Who? No one can stop the Juggahead." And that stuck with him for a little while, like all of high school. No, it wasn't me. My head's not that big. It's a cowl. Yes, it was me that drew the picture, but me being a horrible person in high school is a whole other story, because I was also a nerd. So I got stuff done to me too. All those things that happen in your life. If you could fire blasts of fire and then immediately had to go shit, or you shit your pants, you don't think that people would be calling you shit fire behind your back? Or flaming squirts? Sometimes it's not necessarily worth it to try and go into the superhero route, or the good route, or even using your powers for the good of others route. Not that there's much use you can get out of being able to to melt steel with fire, other than wanton destruction. Don't know if I'll use that character I just came up with, because flaming squirts, that's just hilarious, and I don't necessarily want people to be laughing all the way through my book whenever that guy shows up. There's worse things that could happen. The whole book's about powers, downfall. Is it worth it? Especially when you have to deal with heroics, or you have to deal with criminals, or you have to deal with conspiracies against a group of people that aren't even the same race or the same, aside from having a power. You know, there's always that one hate group that's totally unreasonable. I've rambled again, and this is what I do in this stream. I talk and I talk and I make no sense until I realize, oh, I've left what I was talking about way behind. The voice in your head that you know is you, but you have to argue with it to figure out what you want to do and whether you want to do something. That's tough to write, especially in a world where I might be writing about somebody with psychic powers. Might. I don't know if I'll be doing that. And how would that be handled? And how can I make it distinct, the two, if I have to? Well, I'm going to get mosey along and end my stream for the night before I find some other topic to ramble off about and not talk about writing. Hello, Colin, over in Periscope. Sorry, but you stumbled into the tail end of my second stream about writing. I'm about to go. So, remember, folks, have a good night and stay